Broadcasting from Meredith Hall Studios, you're listening to Covering the Field Sports Show, featuring sports analysts Big Rich Martin, Rockin, Ronnie McKinnon, Gator Gates. And now here's your host, Joe the Answer Ellison.
Welcome to the show, everyone. My guest today, covering numerous different sports, is our baseball correspondent, Rockin, Ronnie McKinnon. We want to give a shout out first, though, to our listener, Evan. Thank you for the email. We appreciate the feedback and comments, and we look forward to bringing you a great show every week. We also want to give a shout out to Big Richard Martin and Gator Gates, who are out this week. So, how's it going today, Ronnie?
Doing great, Joe. We're like got echoes going on in here. Where's all our other guys, man? It's like, but we'll get through it and wish those guys the best and safe return.
Yeah, and we'll start off with your strongest subject. What's the news this week in Major League Baseball? Let's start with Tuesday's upcoming trade deadline. Who is likely to be on the move to another team?
Well, of course, I'm sure everybody's heard by now about Juan Soto from Washington. The trade deadline is Tuesday at 6 Eastern, 3 p.m. our time. August 2nd, this coming Tuesday, is the trade deadline. Juan Soto turned down a 15-year, $440 million contract. That's like $29.333 a year. And he's got 2+ years left on the contract, the rest of this year and 2 more years. So we have a lot of teams interested, obviously, in Juan Soto. Right now, the latest, the top 2 are San Diego and the Dodgers. We also have the Mets and the Yankees in on it, Seattle and St. Louis Cardinals. Actually, a lot of other teams too. Those are probably the top 5 as of now, and we'll see what happens with that. He's a great young player, 23 years old. He's only hitting .245 right now. He's got 20 home runs though. He was in the All-Star game, and
yeah, that was going to be my question. Is he really that good?
Well, I've never been a big fan of his, okay, and I don't want to get into that part of it, but, he's got a lot of talent and a lot of skill, and we'll see what happens if he has a better second half. Personally, I don't think he should have been on the All-Star game, but anyway, it's a whole lot of money, and it's like for a young guy, that is he going to continue to prove that he's that good? We've seen a lot of players where it didn't happen. Bellinger brings to mind the first. The Dodgers has been,
So let's say he gets traded
ever since the MVP year. So
let's say he gets traded. Is he going to be offered a contract similar to this one that he just turned down?
Well, yeah, he very well might. The thing is that, he wants to be on more of a winning team, obviously.
Well, you can't blame him for that.
Right. I mean, Washington has the worst record in all of baseball, and the Dodgers just lost to him the last 2 nights at Dodger Stadium. So, because they're a professional team, they can still win games. But, obviously he wants to... it can't be the money thing. He just wants to be on a contender, and you can't really blame him for that.
No, but you can see another team offering him that kind of a contract.
Sure, and the thing is that Washington totally wanted to keep him. I mean, that's a big contract.
That's why you offer him a contract like that.
It tweaked them bad when he turned it down, and they're like, you know what, we're done with you then. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. What will San Francisco do with starting pitcher Carlos Rodon?
Yeah, that guy's a great pitcher. I don't think he was going to stay around anyway because he pitched the amount of innings they asked him to. He's already completed the innings they wanted him to where he could just walk away next year. And Barbie will, wants maybe to get to a more of a contender, and, he'll still get the money. He made a mistake yesterday in that game. He wanted to win that game so the Giants wouldn't go below 500. He wanted to win the game. He's a very quality pitcher. He got upset and did some things in the dugout, kicking a bat and throwing the glove and doing, just unprofessional things. And it happens, I don't really, he apologized right away. I saw the interview with him. He totally, knew that he was stupid, and he said those words and was felt bad about it because he almost hurt a player, and so pretty unprofessional. And I don't think that'll happen again with him. The guy's he's a true professional, and he made a mistake, and it happens.
Well,
but I don't think he was going to stay with the Giants anyway.
It's not going to affect his trade.
No, his value. No, not. I wouldn't think at all.
Okay. So who else could be on the move?
Well, I heard something over a week ago about Ohtani, which, that would really just, oh my God, the Angel fans, and they'd go crazy, but there was rumors of a trade. I haven't heard anything since. Who knows? He didn't pitch too well in his last outing, but he's still 9-5 with a 2.80 ERA. He had a rough game against Atlanta, which a lot of teams do, actually, and lost that game 8-1 when he was pitching, and didn't get a hit in that game. But I can't see. I thought the Angels would be a lot better also this year, and Trout's been a little bit on the DIL a little bit himself. I thought they'd be a lot better than they are, and so even though they got rid of Joe Madden, the manager who I wasn't fond of anyway, didn't really matter. They've still gone the other way, and it's kind of sad to see.
Yeah, well, you've got two really solid players, I guess, on that team. You probably just want to keep those two, Ohtani.
I would think you would,
Trout.
And they got some other young, good players. Yeah, pitching is always a thing.
I think they'd be crazy to trade Ohtani.
I would think so too.
Yeah,
so
you just give him whatever he wants.
I don't see that happening. Trout's already locked in, and I don't see it happening. It was just a little bitty rumor that came out a little over a week ago, and I was like, really? Haven't heard anything since. So,
okay. Any other players you wanted to mention? Possibly being traded.
Well, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, there's some guys that are some power bats that are available. There's actually 9 of them. And they could possibly be traded. A couple of them, actually, we have Josh Bell from Washington. Great hitter. We have Christian Walker from Arizona, Trey Mancini from Baltimore, Ryan Mountcastle from Baltimore, J.D. Martinez from Boston, Patrick Wisdom from the Cubs, also Ian Happ from the Cubs, David Peralta from Arizona, and Brandon Drury from Cincinnati. These guys are some good power bats, and I think there's going to be some teams going after them.
I would say if the Oakland A's had any power bats, they would have been on that list.
That's right.
They don't have it.
That's right. I think they already, that ship already sailed, Joe.
Yeah.
So
they already traded those guys.
That's right. One thing I wanted to bring up about that, when you talk about that, these guys that I mentioned that hit home runs and stuff, the 2022 postseason this last year, the team that hit the more home runs actually won 25 out of 27 of those games in the postseason, 25-2. So, yeah, it kind of matters to have some home run guys, and these 9 guys I mentioned are power bats, and they are some options for some teams at the deadline, and definitely some of them will move.
And we'll talk about that next Wednesday, and we won't have to wonder anymore.
That's right. We'll talk about that then. And, any day on the Juan Soto thing, that can happen at any time, right, before the deadline. So we'll see what happens.
Well, moving on to the action on the field, what happened in the huge series between Houston and Seattle last weekend?
Yeah, that was crazy. 14-game winning streak. They were in Seattle. Houston ended up sweeping them Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah, they broke the Mariners' 14-game
right, and at 5-2 was the score of that game. Then they won Saturday 3-1, Sunday 8-5. Seattle did win the next day on Monday, but in that Saturday game, I have to bring up Justin Verlander. That guy has always been a phenomenal pitcher and right-handed starting pitcher for Houston. He missed all of last year with Tommy John surgery. He's 39 years old. The other night, in that second game against Seattle when they won 3-1, he pitched 7 innings, gave up a run, 4 hits, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts. He's the first 13-game winner this year, 13-3 with a 1.86 ERA. But 4 times in the 7th inning of that game, he threw 4 pitches over 99 miles an hour. And his last pitch, 101st pitch. You know, we always talk about these guys that, you know, watch the pitch count.
You're done.
This guy's 39 years old. His 101st pitch in that game was 97 miles an hour. The guy's just, you know, he's always been awesome. He's actually on a 5-0 win streak with a 0.79 ERA in his last 5 starts, and I've always been a big fan of his, and that's amazing, you know.
Yeah, well, amazing. At that age, 39.
At any age, but especially at that age.
Yeah.
And
I will say the All-Star break came at a bad time for Seattle. You're going 14 in a row. Here comes the All-Star break. And it happens in a lot of sports. Teams that are on, you know, on these streaks.
That's right.
Hockey especially. And they come out of the All-Star break and they're a completely different team.
Right. Well, yeah, and it's not just losing the one game Friday night. They lost all 3 that weekend at home. And, of course, to a good team. Houston's a good team. But
time will tell, you know.
We'll see what happens.
If this will last a long time. Seattle actually not playing well, or maybe it was just running into Houston.
Yeah, I don't think. No, I think they'll be fine. They weren't going to catch Houston for that division, but they're right in the driver's seat in wild cards, and so I think they'll be okay.
So how about Seattle's Julio Rodriguez? How is he doing?
Yeah, he's an amazing young player to watch, an outfielder, right-handed batter. He actually became the fastest player in American League National League history to reach 15 home runs and 20 stolen bases in his first 81 games. So that's like a half a season.
Yeah.
He's pretty amazing to watch. And if you haven't done so, make a point to.
The first time I really watched him, he made it all the way to the finals of the Home Run Derby.
There you go. That's exactly right. He was right to the end there with Soto.
It was who won that thing anyway? It wasn't. Was it Soto?
It was Juan Soto. Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Juan Soto won. Yeah.
Well, that's another bonus for Soto on the trade.
Right.
We can use you in home run derbies too.
Right. Well, he's hit 20 this year already in the regular season, but he aced that home run derby thing.
Okay. What's up with New York Yankees slugger Aaron Judge?
Well, Aaron Judge, he's always in the news too, the right-handed center fielder for the Yankees. He hit 2 home runs. This was just earlier in the week, or last week. 36 at the time, leading the all of baseball in a 7-6 win over Baltimore. He actually had his 8th home run game, 24th career, but his 8th this year.
Like multi-homer
games, yes. And with at least 2. And he's already tied for 5th all-time with Babe Ruth and actually Alex Rodriguez, too. So, and also I totally wanted to bring up Gleyber Torres. He's also in that mix, too, and he also plays for the Yankees.
Okay. How about Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher Tony Gonsalen?
Well, not so hot so, he was like 11-0. He's now 11-1. His ERA was like, he was leading, both leagues in ERA. He's now at 2.26. He had a little rough start before the All-Star game. Totally had a rough All-Star game. He gave up all 3 of the runs, the 2 home runs and all 3 runs to the American League, and when they lost 3-2. He just pitched Monday night and actually lost to Washington. Of course, the Dodgers didn't score any runs for him. He lost 4-1. So he's having a little rough go here, and we'll see what happens. I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah, that's also happened to players where they're completely on fire. They go to the All-Star game, have a bad outing, and they just don't seem to recover.
Well, yeah, I think he'll be good, and it was a big thing for him to be on the All-Star team, and he should have been. And of course, Clayton Kershaw actually got the start.
Even though Gonsalen was undefeated.
People talked about Alcantara, and they talked about and all those guys, and of course the manager, which was the Braves for the National League team, and they decide, Kershaw, he's had a great year. Dodger Stadium, probably one of the only things he hasn't accomplished is, starting an All-Star game and then also at Dodger Stadium, because they hadn't had the All-Star game since 1980 at Dodger Stadium. So, and he pitched great in the first inning. He actually gave up a little fluky thing to Ohtani and then picked him off.
Yeah.
Also got a strikeout that inning, and he pitched his one inning and did well. And it was good to see, and the fans loved it.
Well, wouldn't the fans have also liked to see Ohtani start that game? But I guess he probably did that last year.
Pitching,
but he wasn't asked to pitch this time around.
Correct. Yeah, he wasn't, and I don't. That's a big deal. I think people really wanted to see him hit too. But none of them. They don't play a lot. Most of the time, they play only 1 or 2 innings in the All-Star game because they try to get everybody in there, and so it was fun.
So moving on, what did Toronto do last Friday?
What did Toronto do? Oh, well, they beat Boston 28-5. The previous record was back in 2007 for scoring that many runs.
The previous high
that was done by Texas against Baltimore. They won 30-3.
So that's the most anybody scored since 2007.
That's correct. National League and American League.
Yeah.
Yes, record. Yeah. So there that is. And Boston has been, they started moving up, and now they're just been falling back. And actually, when getting to the standings, just last night, the Baltimore moved a half a game ahead of Boston into 4th place, and Boston in 5th place. Still Boston, I think, still at 500. So this is still the only division that's everybody's up above 500. But Boston's having a rough time. Toronto's on a streak, and they were expected to do well anyway. We'll see what happens.
Sure. I'm plenty of time for all those teams in that division.
I still think the White Sox have a good shot in that Central Division, and they just got to 500 too. And
okay.
So we'll see what happens.
Well, the Hall of Fame announced its new class for this year.
They did.
Who's in it?
They did, and because I'm older, I've seen not all of them, most of them, like Jim Cott, a big pitcher for Minnesota Twins, 25 seasons. That's in 4 different decades that he pitched for actually the Senators and the Twins.
Oh, I thought maybe he had pitched for the Cardinals.
He did pitch for the Cardinals. Actually,
that was late
won a World Series with the Cardinals in 1982.
I do remember that.
So, yep. And then we have Bud Fowler. He blazed trails for Latino players and stuff and he, 5. That was Minnie Minoso I was going to get to. That's who I was going to get to, is Minnie Minoso. He was the one that blazed for Latino players, played in 5 different decades, 13-time All-Star, and pretty amazing. He actually they pinch hit him for 2 at-bats when he was 54 years old in 1980.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. And
I do remember
I
that
did
too.
watch him play a little. Then I started to bring up Bud Fowler. He was actually born with a different name, John Jackson. He is actually the only player in the Hall of Fame that's actually from Cooperstown, and he integrated the White Pro League in 1878, but never, actually ended up being the guy that kind of helped imagine the Negro Leagues, and so he was put into the Hall of Fame, and rightly so if you read about his what he's done and what he did. Another one that I watched play a lot, Tony Oliva. Also Minnesota Twin, and knew Minnie Minoso, played, younger than Minoso. He was a Rookie of the Year in 1964. He won 3 batting titles, and he led the AL in hits 5 times, and he was an 8-time All-Star. Tony Oliva,
well deserved.
Great player, player, and I was able to watch him play a little too. Gil Hodges, 8-time All-Star, 3 Gold Gloves, led the Dodgers to 7 NL pennants and 2 World Series. He actually won a World Series with the Miracle Mets in 1969 as the manager also.
Okay.
And he died He died in 1972, and he was only 47 years old. Gil Hodges. Then we have Buck O'Neil. He was a player, a manager, and a scout, and the first black AL/NL coach. And then, of course, we have Big Papi, David Ortiz. 10-time All-Star. Boston Red Sox is what everybody remembers him from in the World Series championships.
Yeah, probably the most recognizable of the list, just because he's recent and
correct, and
his personality
and way younger than all the other guys too.
Exactly.
So, but all 7 of those deserve it. I briefly talked about their stats, and if you read about all of them, they all definitely deserve to be there. So
okay, well, Ronnie, it's time to look at the standings and talk about which teams are currently hot and cold. Let's start in the American League.
American League, of course, the Yankees still lead in runs scored and the run differential. They're 66-32. They actually have the best home record. Now you have to understand that some of the teams have played more home games than road. A little differential there. But then we have Toronto, who's actually on a 7-game winning streak. But they're 11.5 behind the Yankees, and of course, we have 3 wild cards in the National and the American League. Then we have Tampa Bay, who's been falling a little. Baltimore is a game above 500. They just moved ahead of Boston into 4th place. Boston at 500 has dropped to 5th in that division. In the Central, Minnesota only 7 games above 500, but they're in 1st place still. Cleveland only 2.5 back. The White Sox only 3 back. Cleveland is 2 above, and Chicago White Sox are 1 above 500. Then KC and Detroit round that division out. In the West, of course, the Astros 64-34. They pretty much have about the best record on the road. They've played a few more games than the Dodgers. The Dodgers then would have the next best record on the road. Seattle, they're 11 back, but even though they lost those 3 to the Astros, they're okay. Texas moved into 3rd. The Angels are 22.5 back, 15 below 500, and we just talked about Ohtani a little bit ago. And then, of course, Oakland rounds out the bottom of that division, Joe. We won't get into, that.
It's certainly no surprise.
Well, the thing is that they don't have the worst record in baseball. They actually, Washington does, and who just beat the Dodgers the last 2 nights. They actually have the worst record in baseball still.
Yes,
and,
thank God for small favors.
Right.
They are not the worst team.
That's right.
But they are the worst team in the American League. We'll give them that much.
That's right. Okay. When we go to the National League, we have the Mets. Then Atlanta, only 2 back. Philadelphia is now 10 back. Then Miami, and then Washington. In the Central, Milwaukee, 10 above in 1st place. St. Louis, they're only 4 games above. I expected more out of them. I still do. They are 3 games back of that division, so obviously a great chance to win that division. Then we have the Cubs actually moved ahead of Pittsburgh for 3rd, and then Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. In the West, the Dodgers, they've given up the least amount of runs altogether of all the teams in the major leagues. They're 64-32. They just lost the last 2 nights. San Diego is 10.5 back. They're 11 above 500. The Giants, unfortunately, have dropped to a game below 500. They're 16.5 back of 1st place. Still, in a shot for a wild card. They've lost 6 straight, though. And then Arizona and Colorado round out that division. So
yeah. Well, I wanted to talk a little about San Francisco since they had such an amazing year last year. Just mentioning what they did last year. They had a National League best 241 home runs. They had the 2nd best ERA in all of baseball. The best bullpen ERA in all of baseball. Of course, the 107 wins. They had at least a 600 winning percentage in each month of the season. That matched the 1942 Brooklyn Dodgers as the only teams ever to do that. Those Dodgers unfortunately finished 104, 50-1. That was 2 games behind the St. Louis Cardinals, who beat the Yankees 4-1 in the World Series that year. They actually didn't even make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's back when they played like 154 games.
Yeah, right. And you just got two teams that made the playoffs.
Right.
They just met in the World Series. So, what really has been the biggest difference, would you say, between last year? It's only been 1 year.
Yeah, I don't think anybody could have expected him to do that again. But as the years gone on up until just recently, they seemed like they were gonna, be okay and probably maybe even win 90 games, But now it's hard to tell. The big thing is the older guys, Crawford and Belt, had really, really great years last year, and this year, not so much. They and the other guys that kind of probably, I will say, played over their heads. Some of the guys that weren't well known, they're not playing as well. The pitching hasn't been as good. Combination of all those things, I think, Gabe Kapler, I think he's a great manager, and I still think he is, and I think he should stay there and would be the one to lead that team, and
no Buster
and not
Posey.
that I've heard anything else. And of course, no Buster Posey,
a little
true.
emotional leadership.
True, that's very true.
In your
that's
locker
very
room,
true.
in a catcher, very important position.
Very true, yeah. And they've had some problems with the catchers there. They've brought up Joey Bart from the minor, hasn't done too well. I think they still need to give him a little more time, though.
Okay.
I don't think you decide now already that, hey, he's not going to make it. I don't, So it's just a combination of a lot of those things, and
it
we'll see
seems
what
to be a
happens the rest of the
combination
year.
of things.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll see what
It's not
happens
just
the rest of the year.
Yeah.
I think they have a good manager in place, and we'll see what happens.
Well, do you have any picks for the games coming up this week?
I don't, but I definitely, positively will put some on tomorrow on Thursday for Friday night's games. I will have some picks on the site.
Well, we definitely look forward to that.
Right on. Cool.
Okay. So, we're going to switch sports now. The National Football League Hall of Fame game is Thursday, August 4th. That's just 8 days away, by the way.
Right.
But the news this week in the NFL, besides that every team is in training camp, of course, Arizona quarterback Kyler Murray will be required to study for 4 hours a week the upcoming opponent's defense. Wow, what a concept. He just signed a $230 million contract. Apparently, Murray spends hours playing video games at home, and he says he doesn't need to watch film.
Right. Ridiculous.
I'm going to quote him right now. I think I was blessed with the cognitive skills to just go out there and just see it before it happens. I'm not one of those guys that's going to sit there and kill myself watching film. I don't sit there for 24 hours and break down this team and that team and watch every game, because in my head, I see so much. What do you think a quarterback...
Oh, God, don't even get me started, man.
Oh, I did get you started.
Totally full of and,
what do you think of quarterback Kyler Murray?
Yeah, no, I never was a big fan of his, and that's just, you know what, he ain't playing for me with that attitude, and I wouldn't want to play with him either. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That's just totally ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Completely ridiculous.
Now that's his homework. They're going to force him to do 4 hours. I mean, this should have already been happening, Yeah, don't get me started too much more on that.
Well, suddenly he's become better and smarter than Tom Brady and Peyton Manning.
Exactly.
And those are the guys he should aspire to be like.
Exactly.
And
right.
these guys watched miles of film.
Exactly, or at least be around longer to make some stupid, crazy statements like that. Come on, man.
Yeah. So obviously, most everybody thinks it's ridiculous, but there'll be some outliers who might say, "Oh, this might be a good thing." I don't know. I just don't see how it could possibly be positive in any way.
Yeah, no, me neither. I've been slapping them too. So.
No. Well, I did mention Tom Brady. Speaking of him, wide receiver Julio Jones just signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How do you think that will work out?
I think it'll work out great. I've always loved him. He's great, and I look forward to seeing that. And wow, and having Brady throw it. Come on, man,
I do have concerns. He had a tough season last year at Tennessee. He had, of course, the many Pro Bowl seasons at Atlanta, but it doesn't seem like he can stay healthy. I'll be shocked if he stays healthy throughout the whole year.
Well, I sure hope so. I've always liked him, and he very well could. I mean, it happens a lot, though, in football, just like in baseball. Some of these guys seem to, get hurt and not recover well. We'll see what happens. And I wish him the best.
Yeah, I wish him the best, too. Professional, doesn't complain a whole lot.
That's right.
Just goes out, does his business, but he gets hurt.
Right.
So, just getting old.
Yeah. Yeah, and we just get done talking about the other guy.
Yeah.
And then here's a guy who's like totally professional and totally been around a while and totally.
Murray, you're talking about.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. I wasn't going to bring it up again. Sorry.
You don't even want to mention his name.
No, I don't.
Yes. So next week we're going to preview. We're going to talk about the tight ends and wide receivers, and look forward to making our top 10 lists with Big Rich Martin. Hopefully he can be here. If not, we'll find a way to do that.
Sure.
And we're going to make a preview on the Hall of Fame game.
Right on.
And yes, I am derelict enough to bet on the Hall of Fame game and preseason football.
Yeah, we know, Joe.
Yes.
We know you have a problem. And, so do I. It's just not that one.
Don't empty the wallet on the game.
Yeah.
Just
I do that on other kinds of gambling, but you're just
I'll
like...
bet just about anything.
Right. They could be over pitching pennies against the wall and you'd be putting money on it, It's just, of course, wait a second, I've done that.
That'd be nickels. Nickels with me.
Right.
I don't do pennies.
Well, we used to do silver dollars when we used to get some.
We did quarters
Okay.
until the nuns caught us, and then they busted us, and that was it. So anyway, so speaking of other sports, in NASCAR, I'm going to just go off and mention some things that happened last week.
That Gator would talk about, sure.
We're missing Gator. We wish him the best.
Definitely.
He'll be back. Just not this week. And in last Sunday's M&M's Fan Appreciation 400 at Pocono, the long overdue Denny Hamlin sent Ross Chastain into the wall. This had been coming for weeks. Chastain, he was okay with it. He said it was owed to him. It's just part of NASCAR.
Right. That's
people crash into you.
Yeah, it happens.
The Toyotas of Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch finished first and second. Joe Gibbs Racing. But they had tape in their car somewhere. I don't know what the rules are, but apparently it was in a place where it shouldn't have been because they were disqualified and sent to the back of the pack. 35th and 36th they finished. And Chase Elliott. Yeah. And the last disqualification in a cup race, you want to take any wild kind of guess? You'll never guess.
All right, then.
I'll just tell you.
Okay.
1960. Some guy had a car with an oversized fuel tank inside it.
Well,
there you go. If you're going to cheat.
Totally different back then, too, with the tanks and the carburetors and shit, instead of fuel injector. Yeah.
I don't know if we have any footage of that anywhere. But anyway, so Chase Elliott.
Yeah, I was around then, too. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. It's okay. It's not what I meant. Chase Elliott didn't lead a lap, but he won the race. Odds of 15-2, and he says he's not going to celebrate his victory because he doesn't want to win that way. This Sunday is the Ryzen 200. That's going to be run on Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. So that should be interesting. AJ Allmendinger won last year. One thing I noticed, Chevy is a huge favorite for manufacturer. They have Chevy, Ford, Toyota listed, and Chevy is like big minus, and the other two are big pluses. So
wow.
Expect the Chevy to win, I would say.
Right, yeah, that's from when I used to follow it a lot. I thought the Chevys were pretty. They used to be really well. Do really well.
There was no Toyotas back then either.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. And you did you bring up Truex at all?
No, didn't bring up Truex.
Okay,
no.
Kind of one of my guys that I follow. I used to follow it a lot, but I still keep track. But
he's having a rough year. He hasn't won this year.
Yeah, not as much as I used to. But you're doing a great job filling in for Gator, who does an awesome job on
thank you.
On those things.
We should shift over to Formula One. Last Sunday, in the French Grand Prix at Circuit Paul Ricard in Le Castellet.
Ooh, you said that good, Joe.
Well, I was studying French for 5 years.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay, never mind.
Okay. Max Verstappen won at even money odds. Believe it or not, that was Gator Gates' pick last week, was Verstappen.
Wow.
So he nailed it. Congratulations to Gator and Max. F1 moves on to the Hungarian Grand Prix this Sunday. Esteban Ocon won last year, and even if you follow Formula One, you probably don't know who Esteban Ocon is because it's the only race he's ever won. So maybe we'll get a big upset instead of a favorite this week. Tour de France finished up last Sunday on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. I got to practice some more of my French.
Right, there you go. That's good, Joe.
Denmark's Jonas Vingegaard won his first Tour de France. He was second last year. He won by 3.5 minutes. Today, Pogacar was the two-time defending champion. He was my pick, of course. He just won it 2 years in a row. Finished second. unfortunately. So Vingegaard is the man to beat from now on. Ronnie,
handled that.
Here you go.
Well, Joe.
Thank you. Oh, I like the Tour de France. It's
no, I'm writing this stuff down too.
People have a lot to learn about the Tour de France.
Right.
Of course, Greg LeMond, one of our great local heroes from Reno, used to ride right up here through Carson up to Tahoe, and if you can ride your bike up to Tahoe,
I go up there. I go up there twice a week now, and it's like I remember over the years seeing those guys, ride up there, and I'm just like, oh my God, you can't even imagine how hard that is. I
would venture to guess there aren't any football, baseball, or basketball players that could keep up with any of these guys on the bike.
I would think not.
Right. Impossible.
I would think
not a chance.
Yeah. It's
it would take months of training.
All those totally different kind of training too. And so, we have some great athletes playing those sports, but to do that, totally different kind of human being there, right?
Yes, without a doubt. So, Ronnie, here's something up your alley. What transpired in the Haskell Invitational Stakes horse race at Monmouth Park in New Jersey last Saturday?
Yeah. Cool.
That's a big one.
That was. It was Saturday, July 23rd. It was race number 12 at the Monmouth Park in New Jersey. This was 3-year-olds, the 2022 Haskell Stakes, and it was 1 1/8 miles. It was a Grade 1 race, and Cyberknife, and I think people remember the top 3 horses in this that they remember seeing in the Kentucky Derby races, or the Triple Crown races, and when we followed those and bet on those, Cyberknife, and went off at 7-1. So just a $2 bet got you back $17.60 on the win. Of course, you can bet exactas, trifectas, and do all kinds of things. Also, there was a place and show money, but
he was the Arkansas Derby winner.
That's right, and he actually set a new stakes and track record in that race the other day. The Taba, who we also followed in the Kentucky Derby races, or Triple Crown races.
Triple Crown races, yeah.
Triple Crown races, I'm sorry. And
I don't think he was in the Kentucky Derby. I don't remember.
No. I always say that because it's the first one of the 3. But the Triple Crown races, he actually went off at 2-1. Came in second by a head. It was a really, really close at the end there. And of course, my favorite jockey, Mike Smith, was on that horse. And then the horse that came in third, number 7, was Jack Christopher, who I think people will remember. He finished 2 lengths back. One of the Ortiz brothers was the jockey. That horse ended up going off at 6-10 odds, 3-5 odds. Yeah, I mean, that's just, obviously the favorite going into the race. And also White Abario, another horse we saw in the Triple Crown races, finished 6th. He went off at 5-1, and so
the favorite finished 3rd. So there was money to be won on that race.
There was money to be won on that race, just on a win bet, or across the board win place show, and especially if you pick Taba, and get that exacta going. And Jack Christopher, I'm sure, being the favorite, was on a lot of people's tickets. So that could have been a real good exacta or trifecta. And if you box it all, you cover all the
you'd have to put him in your trifectas.
And you cover all the bases by with all the different combinations. Is the only way to do it.
So Bob Baffert is back. So that's interesting news.
Yeah, another person that's not one of my favorites.
Right, not too many people's favorite at all.
I never have been a fan of his. Not that he hasn't done some phenomenal things as a trainer, but he's also been caught, cheating and using drugs and horses
quite
and
often.
Such. Yeah, and
yes.
So not a big fan of his. But anyway, great race. Another, those Grade 1 races are always fun to watch, and these 3-year-olds and at 1 1/8 miles, it's a good little distance there. So
a couple other tidbits. News from the world of tennis. Venus Williams, 42 years old, is going to be playing in Washington, D.C.'s City Open after nearly a year away from competition. She's never actually played in that tournament before. Good to see her back. Not that she's going to play well. I expect her to lose very quickly. She's hanging in there. But Serena played in Wimbledon and lost in the first round. So now Venus has to play now because Serena did. It's just one of those things. That's what they do.
Yeah, that's what they've done for a long time. And
so anyway, and finally, congratulations to the United States track and field team, which dominated the first ever World Championships held on U.S. soil, which was specifically in Eugene, Oregon. The Americans won 33 medals. Here's a trivia. The next most by any country at this year's World Championships, would you venture to guess?
Oh, wow. Probably like 4 or 5.
Oh, you went lower than I expected. 10. But still, that's pretty much domination.
Yeah.
Kenya, Ethiopia, and Jamaica each got 10.
Right. Yeah, I was watching those the other day, and I hadn't planned on it. I didn't. I just accidentally, and I was like, oh my God, I love watching that. The track and
best
field,
in the world.
Especially the races and the relays and all that. And
talk about being in shape.
Really, yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. I mean, yeah, especially that real long one by themselves. I mean, my God, it's crazy. I used to run a little bit in high school in track because I was fast, but then I realized that this is a whole different thing when you're doing some of those races.
But it was just awesome to watch how we just totally dominated 3 times more than any other country. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. And and actually, the women ended up doing what they were supposed to do. The men kind of, at the end there, would they get the silver? I think, in that.
Yeah, the one relay.
In the relay, yeah. And
well, we can't be perfect.
Exactly.
We won a few we weren't supposed to. Also,
that's exactly right. And
even swept a couple events.
Yeah. And what's that guy that? What country was it? The shot put that was like, oh my God. Yeah. How far that went. Amazing.
Yeah, well, they just get better and better.
And the high jumpers and all. I love all of it. I like the racing the best, the running and stuff. But that was, I caught it on accident and it was good. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
Well, excellent job, Ronnie.
Joe?
You did a heck of a job.
Hey, you did too. You had to cover a lot of bases, as we say in baseball. Right? And thanks for having me, Joe. And we wish those guys back very soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time for the moments we've all been waiting for. The stories that make us furious about bets that appeared surely to be winners, but in the end something went horribly wrong and they ended up being losers. It's a segment we affectionately call You Got Hosed.
You Got Hosed.
Joe, do you have a You Got Hosed this week?
Well, yeah, I kind of touched on it earlier. Anyone who bet on Denny Hamlin, in sports books anyway, in last Sunday's NASCAR race, got hosed. Hamlin crossed the finish line first and was the unofficial winner, but as we mentioned earlier in the show, he was disqualified. DraftKings paid Hamlin bettors and the eventual winner, Chase Elliott. Good for DraftKings.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Didn't know that.
Caesars and many other books recognized only Elliott as the official winner and payoff. Hamlin bettors definitely got hosed.
No doubt. And wow, what a shock, huh? Caesars and all. Yeah, it's
they're not going to pay more than one guy.
Right. Yeah, it's well, that's cool. Right, cool on DraftKings.
You got hosed.
Thank you for tuning into the show, and we look forward to bringing you another episode of Covering the Field.
You've been listening to a Covering the Field sports show. Visit us at coveringthefield.com. Email us your comments, questions, and You Got Host stories at coveringthefield@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at coveringfield. Thank you to our junior IT, Caden Martin. Thanks to our assistant to the editorial staff, Boots McCage. We will see you all next time for another episode of Covering the Field.